Good afternoon. I hope everybody had a relaxing and enjoyable weekend, particularly on Mother's Day. I want to begin this week, by updating you on a number of new efforts the state of California and our Western state pack of governors is advancing. I'll lay out some updates on the amount of PPE we've been able to distribute in the last few weeks, which is foundational in terms of our efforts to begin to meaningfully modify our stay-at-home order and begin to reopen our economy. Update you on the daily numbers and trend lines, and preview a few things coming up later this week. But let me first begin by making a statement reinforcing some of the words I've been saying over the course of the last few weeks. You know, it was just a number of months ago that California was announcing a projected $6 billion budget surplus. I'll remind you, this time last year, that surplus was projected to be over $21.4 billion. We were debating the size of the surplus and how best to manage our budget with that surplus in mind. But just 90 or so days ago, a projected $6 billion budget surplus. We reflected on the fact that this state over the last 5 years has enjoyed 3.8% annual GDP growth, substantially outperforming the rest of the nation. In so many ways, in the last 5 or 6 years, we've really become the tentpole of the American economy in terms of job creation, in terms of economic output, not only reflected in those GDP numbers, but the consecutive months of net job growth. We had record low unemployment, record reserves in the state of California, paid off that wall of debt, which become so infamous in the state of California, and saw our bond rating, independent of any assertions by an elected official, our bond rating agencies upgraded the state on 2 occasions in the last year. I say all that, and as I said all of that on multiple occasions, to just reinforce the current status, and that is those numbers are completely flipped. We now are struggling with tens of billions of dollars in budget deficits directly as an impact directly caused because of the impact of this disease, COVID-19. Unemployment has skyrocketed in this state, some $13.1 billion of unemployment claims we have distributed. $13.1 billion in cash has been distributed to people struggling and suffering because of the economic consequences. 4.5 million Californians that have filed for unemployment insurance and PUA, pandemic unemployment assistance, just since March 12th. 4.5 million just since March 12th. $13.1 billion distributed, $3.4 billion just last week. It gives you the magnitude of what's happened in just a short period of time, 90 or so days in this state. Unemployment numbers that, when new numbers come in, will be north of 20%, getting closer to 22, 3, 4, 5%, very, very likely. And so the challenge is enormous. And this challenge is one that's not only presented to us here in the state of California, but it's a challenge that will be felt all across the United States, and for that matter, around the rest of the world. You're seeing numbers come in states large and small, the impact to the general funds of their budgets. States like California that were running some surpluses now running historic deficits and challenges related to unemployment claims, the likes of which they haven't seen since the Great Depression. These are challenging times, and they require a collaborative spirit. They require a level of cooperation that led to conversation with our Western governors and our Western PAC, where we decided it would be best if we go together and advance our needs and put to light and put into writing our hope and expectation of support from the federal government. And today we are putting out jointly governors of Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Colorado, and their respective leadership in their assembly and in their state Senate. Some are House of Representatives, depending on the state. But the signature of the Speaker, the leader pro tem of the Senate, not just the Assembly, in each of those states, and the governor, and our Speaker, Anthony Rendon, our pro tem, and Tony Atkins, and the minority leader of the Assembly, Republican Marie Waldron, signed similar letter to the federal government, to Nancy Pelosi, to Mitch McConnell, and others, requesting aid in a $1 trillion range. That's the range of support we feel we need as a nation, states, municipals, as well as counties. This is the requirement of this moment. It gives you a sense of the thrust of the needs that we are all feeling as states, as regions, as city, that are required to get through this pandemic and to make sure that we're doing justice to you, to your public health, to your public safety, to our education system. Because remember, these budgetary shortfalls are so much bigger than any state, any city, any county, but they directly impact public safety, our firefighters, our police officers, our first responders. They directly impact public education and our teachers. They directly impact public health and our ability for counties to support their public health systems. It's not just states asking for a bailout, quite the contrary. It's requesting that we support those that we need the most at this time, our public safety officials, our public health officials, and make sure that we do justice to our public education system. So I'm very pleased with this pact. I'm very pleased with the letter, and I couldn't be more proud and honored by the signatures of all of those, not only our three leaders in this state, but substantively those leaders across the United States in this pact that represent legislative leaders, not just the executives themselves. So I wanted to begin with that, and also extend appreciation for the ongoing collaborative, this best practice sharing that continues within these regional pacts. It continues to, I think, impress not only me, but enliven all of us, the ability for our chiefs of staffs and our Office of Emergency Personnel to continue to share best practices in real time. And just based on a lot of those conversations, this is one of the efforts that we are now making public here today.